Maxwell Bunting's normal life rhythm sounded like a bass drum followed by a kazoo. 5 nights a week, he suited up as Rally Rabbit, the frenetic mascot of the Mid-River Mud Puppies, a AAA baseball team that drew more families than flies in an August picnic. Rally Rabbit was 9 feet of foam, fur, and an industrial-strength internal fan that wheezed like a geriatric accordion. Max's actual face was never seen on the Jumbotron, but his floppy-eared alter ego had once been elected honorary mayor of Mid-River for a day, beating the incumbent by write-in vote. On a damp Monday in June, Max awakened to 2 grim realities: scorching humidity and a bright yellow jury duty summons taped to his apartment door. He had postponed twice already. Human Resources warned a 3rd deferral would summon an actual sheriff. Unfortunately, the Mud Puppies were hosting breakfast baseball, a morning game meant to lure summer camps, and Rally Rabbit was contractually bound to cavort from 8 a.m. until the final hot dog wrapper fluttered off the bleachers. Max did the mental math and concluded he could perform, peel out of the suit, and scooter downtown before roll call at the courthouse. The heat, however, mounted a coup. By 9:30 a.m., Rally Rabbit was drenched in a broth of sweat, cotton candy vapor, and synthetic fur. During the 7th-inning jig, his zipper corroded with a sugary glaze from a child-spilled slushie. He yanked, twisted, and cursed into the foam head. Nothing. The zipper teeth had fused into a single, sticky spine. The internal fan sputtered its last gasp. Rally Rabbit was sealed like a leftover lasagna. The public address announcer began the post-game fireworks raffle, and Max realized he was out of time. He roared onto his electric scooter, bunny ears whipping in the wind, and arrived at the courthouse's revolving door precisely at 10:57 a.m. 3 minutes later, the bailiff called roll. Bunting Maxwell! Max attempted speech, but Rally Rabbit's mouth contained only pantyhose mesh and a plastic squeaker. A comically high-pitched horn emerged. Hoo! Ha! The courtroom turned. Max flapped a gloved paw. The bailiff scowled. Sir, remove the head. Max pointed to the zipper, mimed wrenching, then shrugged so helplessly the ears drooped like wilted lettuce. The bailiff tugged. The zipper held fast. As the last names were ticked off, the clerk hissed, "Fine. Stay in costume. Just sit." Max hopped to the bench, squeaked an apology, and tried not to look like jurisprudence's fever dream. Judge Philomena Templeton swept in, spectacles on a jeweled chain. She paused mid-stride, eyeing the enormous rabbit occupying 2 seats. "Counsel," she said, "why is there a Looney Tune in my jury pool?" Prosecutor Henson cleared his throat. "Your Honor, we are informed the gentleman is, stuck. Stuck. In the metaphysical sense, ma'am," the defense attorney added helpfully, "but also literally." The judge pinched the bridge of her nose. "Very well. I shall not discriminate against the adhesive bound. Proceed with voir dire." During questioning, lawyers probed jurors for bias. Did anyone distrust police? Believe property crimes were victimless? Rally Rabbit answered via charades. When asked if he could be fair and impartial, he formed a heart with his paws, then weighed imaginary scales. The gallery awed. Both sides, calculating public sympathy, accepted him without a strike. And so Juror 7 wiggled whiskers and took an oath with one fuzzy paw on the Bible, another aloft like a puppet pilgrim. The case of State versus Quintana concerned an alleged break-in at a jewelry store. Security video captured someone in a hoodie smashing a display, but the face was obscured. The prosecution relied heavily on a witness, Glenn Glinty Farnsworth, a part-time parking lot attendant who claimed the defendant confessed while waiting for an Uber. Glinty radiated the dubious charm of a raccoon, offering you a map to buried treasure. Before testimony started, Judge Templeton addressed the rabbit. Juror 7, you may not squeak, pantomime conclusions, or otherwise editorialize. Justice is blind, but not deaf to antics. Rally Rabbit saluted. The ears slapped together with a clap so crisp, the stenographer instinctively transcribed it as ear smack. The morning featured forensic experts with PowerPoints. Max fought heat stroke. A neighboring juror, Mrs. Burdett, fanned him with a laminated lunch menu. "Bless your heart," she whispered. "You're practically a crock-pot roast in there." Max made a heart shape, then mimed eating soup. She giggled like a teenager. At lunch, maintenance staff attacked the zipper with pliers and industrial solvent. Nothing budged. "You sure this ain't part of the act?" the custodian asked. Max sagged. Rally Rabbit looked freshly resigned to fate. Like a carnival prize no one would claim. Day 2 brought star witness Glinty Farnsworth. He swaggered up in sunglasses though the courtroom was lit like a dentist's office. Mid-testimony, he finger-gunned the jury. Judge Templeton glared. The bailiff confiscated his shades. Glinty recounted the supposed confession, tossing in slang no human had used since disco. He was all, "Yo, I boosted those rocks, G." And I was like, "Chill, my man." Max couldn't help himself. He rotated those enormous rabbit ears to face Glinty, then slapped his cheeks Macaulay Culkin style. The jury snickered. Glinty faltered. Is that rabbit allowed to intimidate?" "Juror 7, the judge warned. Max froze, paused midair. Still, damage done. The man looked rattled. Under cross-examination, the defense revealed Glinty had been paid $500 for lost wages and offered immunity for unrelated parking ticket fraud. When Glinty announced, he remembered another totally real confession detail, that the defendant had munchies for Funyuns. Rally Rabbit produced an exaggerated eye roll so monumental the entire foam head listed sideways. The courtroom erupted. The judge slammed the gavel until splinters flew. "One more outburst, and I will have that costume stapled to a soundproof box." That night, the local news led with, "Mascot juror hops into controversy." Video showed Max waddling out a side entrance, flanked by deputies, his paws up like a fuzzy Frankenstein. Social media exploded. Justice Bunny trended nationwide. Memes proliferated. Rally Rabbit wearing a powdered wig, brandishing a gavel, starring in mock posters for Law and Herder. By day 3, spectators lined up for gallery seats as if the courthouse served popcorn. Vendors outside sold carrot-shaped churros. Judge Templeton adopted triage procedures. Cell phones surrendered. Candy confiscated. No waving at the rabbit. Jury sequestration was threatened, but abandoned when the county realized accommodating a 9-foot rabbit would require adjoining hotel rooms and custom sheets. Inside deliberations, Max discovered the greatest obstacle to reason was Ray Delgado, juror number 4, a conspiracy hobbyist, convinced the defendant was framed by time-traveling jewel thieves. Ray cited ancient aliens during lunch. The first vote stood at 8-4 for guilty. Ray among the holdouts, joined by Mrs. Burdett, who trusted the rabbit's eyes more than the witness's words. Max's foam eyes, permanently startled, offered no rebuttal. Unable to speak, Max resorted to interpretive evidence review. He gathered props, a dry erase board, markers, and Mrs. Burdett's yarn, which she'd sneaked in for anti-anxiety crocheting. On the board, he sketched a stick figure with a hoodie, drew an arrow to a showcase, then a second arrow to a getaway route. He wrapped yarn between pins on a bulletin board, visually matching angles from the crime scene photos. The tableau looked like a conspiracy board from a cop drama, except built by an Easter bunny with a craft fetish. The skeptic jurors leaned in. Max hopped to the security video still, tapped the timestamp, then pointed at weather records that showed a downpour at that moment. He mimed slipping on water. Next, he produced courtroom photographs of the defendant's sneakers. Pristine white. He made a squeak interrogative. Then he stomped a paw in a puddle of spilled coffee to show the inevitable splash. Mrs. Burdett gasped, hand to chest. You're saying his shoes would be dirty if he was really there? Max double-thumbed up so vigorously his whole arm spun like a windmill. Even Ray Delgado nodded, impressed. Okay, the rabbit's onto something. By late afternoon, consensus shifted to 11-1 for not guilty. The lone holdout, Juror Krantz, a hardware store manager who disliked fancy lawyering. Krantz declared the rabbit routine cute but irrelevant. Max exhaled hot air, then embarked on a pièce de résistance, a one-rabbit, silent reenactment. Using a bailiff-approved pointer, he leveraged his physical comedy skills, crouching to show the burglar's height, feigning a limp unseen in the video, and mimicking the startled shriek of an alarm by spinning in place, ears helicoptering. The performance lasted 4 minutes and earned spontaneous applause. Krantz's stubborn jaw loosened. Fine, he grumbled. I'll go with the bunny. Verdict delivered. Not guilty on all counts. The defendant wept, mouthing thank you to the jurors, particularly the towering rabbit who squeaked a salute. Judge Templeton, visibly relieved to close the circus, thanked the panel and then addressed Juror 7 individually. Mr. Bunting, your dedication to civic duty under unusual circumstances is commendable. Bailiff, please locate an acetylene torch or a miracle so this gentleman may breathe fresh air. Backstage, maintenance crews dissected Rally Rabbit with scalpels designed for seat cushions. The zipper surrendered after a midnight skirmish involving WD-40, dental floss, and a prayer circle led by Mrs. Burdett. When the head finally lifted, Max emerged looking like a man birthed by a sofa. He'd lost 6 pounds of water weight, his hair a damp wreath. The team owner, Mr. Kincaid, arrived clutching a new contract clause about Mascot armor limitations. He did offer season tickets to every juror. Krantz refused on principle. Ray Delgado accepted, claiming he would scan the crowd for aliens. The saga might have ended there if not for the follow-up frenzy. Late-night hosts reenacted the trial with interns in rabbit suits. A legal podcast dubbed Rally Rabbit, the Silent Scalia. The Mid-River County Bar Association invited him to keynote their ethics luncheon. His topic, the unspoken power of emotional ears. Yet notoriety carried side effects. One Thursday, Max was approached at the grocery by a panicked woman clutching a parking ticket. Could you adjudicate this? She begged. Her toddler screamed, "Bunny Judge!" and socked Max in the shin with a loaf of French bread. Max fled down the cereal aisle. In November, a letter arrived from the state assembly. A bipartisan delegation invited him to testify on costume citizen engagement. Apparently, low jury attendance rates might be offset by novelty ambassadors. Max pictured a future courtroom staffed by Grimace, the M&M guys, and half a dozen sooty pirate mascots from minor league teams. He shuddered, poured himself a generous bourbon, and drafted a polite refusal. Still, Rally Rabbit's influence lingered in the judicial ether. Judge Templeton instituted a new rule. Jurors could keep water at their seats, lest future cases involve desert animals or volcano mascots. She also adopted an emergency clause for immovable attire, empowering bailiffs to carry bolt cutters. On opening day the next season, the Mud Puppies unveiled a bronze sculpture outside the stadium. Rally Rabbit in judicial robes, one paw holding scales, the other a baseball bat. At the dedication, Max, finally free in plain khakis, stood beside dignitaries. A little girl asked for a legal opinion on her brother stealing her funnel cake. Max leaned down. Return the property, pay treble damages, and share a lemonade, he advised. The siblings gawked. A mascot who talked felt wrong, like a ventriloquist dummy blinking on its own. She scampered off to find the costumed version, who at that moment was turning cartwheels near the bullpen. Max watched his replacement, a college gymnast, co-working as the new rally rabbit. The kid was nimble, funny, but lacked the haunted knowledge of being stuck in fur amid the machinery of justice. Max felt oddly nostalgic, a prisoner missing the cell that defined him. That evening, the stadium hosted Juror Appreciation Night. Fans wore homemade bunny ears. The scoreboard replayed trial highlights to roaring laughter. Between innings, Max was coaxed onto the field to throw the ceremonial first pitch. He walked to the mound hatless, light, a man rather than a myth. He tossed a perfect strike. The catcher, decked in full gear plus a novelty gavel, jogged up, handed him the ball and whispered, "We the people, baby." Fireworks followed, but Max slipped out a service gate, cradling the scuffed baseball like evidence. On the Riverwalk, summer gnats orbited streetlights. He contemplated the year, how a fused zipper and mandated civic duty had forged an accidental folk hero. Around him, the city hummed. Distant crowd noise, tugboat horn, laughter from a patio bar. Life's soundtrack, he realized, wasn't a bass drum, then a kazoo after all. It was a jury's murmur resolving into a chorus, punctuated by one incongruous, heroic squeak. Max squeezed the baseball, felt its raised seams, and finally laughed. A full-throated, untranslated laugh, no squeaker attached. Then he tossed the ball into the air, caught it, and walked home under a moon that resembled, to his forever tilted imagination, a giant benevolent spotlight.